There it is.
Hi.
Hey,
So to
you
recap,
say
like I
excited.
said, hit all these links and join the show.
Hey,
And here's all the stuff
let's have
we don't have that's so
Susan.
fabulous and great. And
I
then I did
demand.
a poem. Let me just stay right there, and I'm going to do the poem again.
Yes, 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 yes.
I'm taking charge. 10 minutes into the show, we realized we're not live. I realized. All right, here's your headline. Drop terror designation, please. Syria asks for sanctions lift. Meanwhile, Israel strikes Syrian targets. War is not a gift. Scholz in Germany loses a confidence vote, triggering new election. Chancellor, Germany is unraveling when Europe needs connection. And here at home, Trump thinks he'll appoint someone beyond his right to call. Donald wants Carrie Lake to run Voice of America. Really, Mr. Trump, that's all? A reliable international authoritative source, over 40 languages spoken. If this media outlet goes Trump's way, our country is really broken. And that's your poem of the headlines.
All right. Thank you very much. And there's Jason's. Now, who are you now, Jason?
Now, Jason's picture just got all wanky.
Oh dear, I hate it when my picture gets all wanky. No, that is a screen capture from Superfly, a film I'm sure that is near and dear to all our hearts.
Yeah.
Who can forget the great blaxploitation films of the early 1970s? And back when you could go to the theater for 75 cents.
Well, that's about the time I started going to the theater, and Superfly would have been one that I would have seen at the theater before I saw it.
Cleopatra Jones.
Oh
yeah. Come on, a chick with a machine gun. You know that's a damn fine movie. With Pam Grier in just about anything. Again, a better actress than she ever got credit for being until Tarantino cast her
until
Tarantino.
Yep.
But then again, I mean, if you're in your 20s and you're just trying to work in Hollywood, someone puts a script in front of you and offers to give you money to pay your bills.
Yeah, because you like to eat.
Yeah.
Sometimes more than once a day.
You guys know a little bit about that, both having been entertainment-based personalities. So I mean, I suppose you could probably tell me a lot more about it than So yeah, there you go. At any rate, that's what I'm. It was either this or Leonid Brezhnev, which I use as my grinder picture.
Here's the thing. Leonid Brezhnev doesn't have any catchy lyrics like Superfly.
Right.
Make your fortune by and by.
Yes.
But if you lose, don't ask no questions why. There she is. Oh, there she is, Esther from Sanford and Son.
Well, don't forget the Curtis Mayfield soundtrack to Superfly, which is one of the best pieces of music, not just urban American, but I mean fantastic music with not just Freddie's Dead, but Pusher Man and of course the theme to Superfly. That was a hell of an album.
Well, before I say goodnight to the both of you, Mark, you'll probably want to put your little smash that like button if you enjoyed the poem, or if you want to join the show. He's got a StreamYard link,
that's right, because
you can watch all the episodes.
You're right. We weren't live when that happened. We went 7 minutes here of doing the show without being live. So here we are. Here's the click the like button. So if you like that picture of Superfly, go ahead and click the like button. And
or if you like the poem,
or the poem, if you'd like to be notified of any shows coming up, go ahead.
And he's going to put up a link if you want to join the show sometime. It's via StreamYard. So all you need is a webcam and a mic. If you can do Zoom, you can do StreamYard.
That if you should tune into the show and you don't hit the like button, I'm sending drones to your house to circle above all night long.
Oh, that wasn't in the poem. Drones, that's right.
Well, on that note, I just want to remind everyone, next week, I've given Mark a poem to read, a Christmas poem. and it's a few years old, but it's not dated. So I think you'll enjoy it next week on the 23rd. I may not be joining the show with a topical poem, so Mark's going to be able to do the Christmas.
I don't think any poem on Santa can be dated, can it?
No.
We all live and die, and Santa goes on. So,
speaking of dated, Leonid's back.
Oh, Leonid.
Well, I'll say goodbye.
Good night, Susan. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night, Susan.
Tanner Oliver, this is his joke, so don't think that I'm doing his material without attribution. But he used to do a couple of things about the Brezhnev administration, of all people, Tanner Oliver. And one of his jokes, which I really loved, was he said, in America, when they say life gives you lemon, you make lemonade. Here in Soviet Union, we say, what makes you think you deserve lemon?
That's a great line.
Yeah, I've always wanted to use it, and maybe someday he will allow me to. But that is the Tanner Oliver. Hopefully he's still. The last time I saw him he was opening up at Ridley's for somebody. I was slain with jealousy, absolutely dead jealousy. I mean,
have you gotten another gig? Have you ever gotten an open mic at the another open mic at the Castle?
No, and I don't. I thought I did well the last time I was up, but
I thought you did too.
And maybe I did. But the thing is, there's a lot of people, as I don't need to tell you, there's a lot of really good comedians going up there. And, and I can't blame anyone but myself. I've not been upping my game lately. I've been out, sort of going round and round in circles around a test track in a car, listening to old Art Bell podcasts, which seem more prescient now than they did 30 years ago. So
that's an important task.
Yeah.
Really?
I mean, at some point, who knows? I mean, oh gosh, was it Joan Rivers said, what, when you're funny, you're funny. They'll come to your deathbed, if you're good enough. So we'll have to keep that in mind, and we'll switch over now to Strother Martin, because what we have here is failure.
What we have is a failure to communicate.
Now, you see the way he wants it, so he gets it. Look at Luke. Cool, man, Luke.
I haven't, what? It's already the 16th of December. I haven't watched that this year, so I'm going to have to go back and watch it.
It's one of my favorite holiday films.
I have to. That's a show. That's a movie I can watch. It never gets old. It is a great film.
Well, you're right. It's I'll only watch 5 minutes of it, and you're lying to yourself, right?
Right.
I mean, you know that. Like if the credits come on and you just see the thing that's cutting the heads off the parking meters, and you're I'm just gonna watch the first few minutes, and yeah, right.
Yeah, I'll watch through the credits. Let's
yeah, exactly. And 2.5
and they do that great after the credits, after he's done after they do the credits, and then they do that slow fade, dissolve, and pan into the prison camp. That is you don't see things like that anymore.
No, it is. You're right. It is an incredibly well-made movie. Elmer Bernstein did the score. Yeah, the same guy who did HUD, and of course you have Harry Dean Stanton. Well, you have everybody. Dennis Hopper. That was George's second role. George Kennedy's second role.
George Kennedy. Yeah. Didn't he get nominated? He got nominated for that.
He either won or he got nominated. He might have won for Airport the next year. But nevertheless,
because he didn't win that year, they had to give him for Airport.
Yeah, they have to give him a little something there.
I hate bullshit awards like that. Hold on, let me find out.
Fortunately, in this modern age, when you're old and your memories are failing, we have the internet now, and hopefully most of the Polaroids that I posted on it will no longer be available. We're of course hopeful that will happen.
Right.
Well, I mean, we do what we can.
George Kennedy's Oscar nominations. Let me get that here in a second. He got. He won.
Okay.
Oh no, that's a nomination.
Okay.
He was nominated for both Cool Hand Luke. He was only nominated for a Golden Globe for Airport.
Oh, well, you know.
It looks like, let me see if he actually won. These are nominations. Oh, he did win for Cool Hand Luke, Best Supporting
There you
Actor.
go. Okay.
Yep, he won for Cool Hand Luke, but not for Airport.
The man that had like a 10-year career in the Air Force before he became an actor. But you know, what's his name? Gene Hackman had what 8 or 9 years in the Marines before he became an actor.
Yeah.
So it again, there's something to be said about.
There's Carl Malden. Did he win for On the Waterfront?
He should have. Got another film. I know Sam hates Ilya Kazan with a burning
Carl
passion.
Malden Academy Awards. Let me see what he got.
Carl Malden's awards include the Academy Award for Best Actor in a Supporting Role for A Streetcar Named Desire in 1992 and Primetime Emmy Award for Outstanding Supporting Actor in a Limited or Anthology Series or Movie for Fatal Vision in 1985, among others.
God, you should have been looking out for me, Charlie. I was your brother. I could have been somebody. I could have been a contender. Oh, of course, Lee J. Cobb is the guy on the waterfront, the big Union tough,
right.
And that was Ilya Kazan's answer to, because obviously, you know, he was, you know, under fire for the whole selling out.
He was blacklisted, or was he the guy that named names?
He was the guy who named names, and his justification for it. And if Sam were here right now, he'd be screaming at me that there is no justification. But his justification was that, you know what, if these people have become, or communists have been declared sort of enemies of the republic, and it's his duty to name names. Now I don't know if that rings true with anybody. During the 30s and early 40s, we forget that Stalin and Russia was on our side. They were our allies and whatnot, and it wasn't till later that we took a different view. So again,
Carl Malden died 15 years ago, and he was 97 when he passed away. So
damn.
I think Gene Hackman's going to make it to 97. I think.
Yep. Yeah, Gene's. Well, I mean, Death shows up and Gene tells him to go away. I'm watching Jeopardy, and I'm sure Death just kind of slunks out of the room and goes, "Well, he's got a point. I mean, what are you going to do? I mean, he's Popeye Doyle. What am I supposed to say to him?" You know, again, the grittiness of the cinema of an era you and I are both well acquainted with. It seems like it doesn't exist anymore. Everything's digital. Everything's 1080 something or other. It's all crystal clear, and I don't know.
You know what though? Considering how poorly temperature controlled theaters are and how fucking noisy people are, I don't mind staying at it. Now that the TV screens at home are great, I don't mind watching it at home.
Oh, absolutely. But
I've seen 2 films in the theater this year. I saw, and both of them have been in the last couple of months. I saw A Real Pain.
Yeah.
With Kieran Culkin and Jesse Eisenberg.
Is that, what's his name, Macaulay's younger brother?
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. He was in that Showtime series Succession that was loosely based on the Fox News family.
Oh my God, the Murdochs.
The Murdochs, and then and Jesse Eisenberg's the guy who played the Facebook guy.
Oh, Zuckerberg.
Zuckerberg, yeah. Or
Zuckerborg, as I like to call him, because he's.
Anyway, it was a type of film that after you know, and I saw that one out in LA, so it was $15. And I bought tickets for my son and his new wife, and so it was $45. And it was like one of those films I could have watched that with commercials, you know.
let me ask you this, Mark. You've actually been boots on the ground out on the West Coast. We've heard horror stories of plagues, of rampant homelessness, of human waste. What, seriously, you were there. What did you see? How bad is it? How good is it? How much of this is blown up? How much of this is BS?
Well, the Supreme Court ruling that allows the the cities to clear the streets.
Yeah.
Despite what the state laws are, have allowed like the mayors out there to sort of snub their nose at the governor.
Right.
But it is such it's not going to last very long, because it is such a labor intensive effort to keep people out of places where they can set up tents.
I'm told, and again, I haven't been there, but I have seen the news roll of people like living in their cars parked in neighborhoods, trailers parked in neighborhoods.
I tell you what, you out of my son's apartment, my son and his bride, out of his apartment, I'm not going to explain about how their apartment's situated.
Right.
Just because I like the security they have from where their particular apartment is based on their street and everything. But you can see people setting up. And if you don't see them, you see them the next morning, because they mostly do it at night while it's, nobody can see them. Yeah. And they're so good at this, they can do it in the dark. But they're homeless. Of course they can do things in the dark. They're used to not being able to.
This is where I'm a bit, I don't know, when I was a kid, and I'm roughly your age, maybe a year or two younger, devastatingly handsome even back then. The one thing was, but you remember this, one of the coolest things in the whole world was to be from California, was to be from LA or San Francisco in the 70s, into the early 80s.
Sure, because everything was coming out of there.
Yeah, so it's kind of a shame. I mean, because whatever my political leanings are, whatever. I mean, I still want to. I've only been out there once. It was one of the most beautiful places I've ever seen in my life. But the people that live
on the streets. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of that old joke about the guy who had to follow the circus all around, shoveling up the elephant manure. Have you heard this story?
No, but I think I know where you're going. I like it.
He had to shovel the elephant manure. And then some guy asked him, how long have you been doing this? He says, 15 years. He goes, 15 years? And this is all they give you? You have to be the guy that shovels the manure from the horses and the lions and the elephants as they parade down the street? Why don't you go get another job? He goes, what, and leave show business? And so that's what I think it's like when you tell people, hey, there's cheaper places to live in Los Angeles. What, and leave Hollywood?
Yeah. Because California is a big state. Obviously, it's number 2 behind Texas in terms of the continental U.S.
Area-wise, continental. Yeah, and Texas is the second largest population-wise.
And I also understand there are places in California. I mean, I have flown over Barstow and looked down and went, no, hold on, no, I don't think so. So I mean, I get the appeal that sort of the coastal communities are where it's at. Who doesn't remember? Well, a good example, Play Misty for Me. You remember Play Misty for Me, Clint Eastwood's first movie, and it's all shot in Carmel.
Well, not his first movie.
Well, I mean, it's his first one that he directs, and
it's the first one he directed.
Yeah, exactly. His Mel Paiso or Mel, the name of his company. James McKeachin playing the jazz DJ. I mean, it's so 1969. Jessica Walters playing the freaked out crazy girlfriend.
Yep.
But it's shot in Carmel, and you look at that now, and you go, that city that doesn't exist anymore. It's not there anymore. Carmel is not like that anymore. I suppose nothing is, but again, it was something to aspire to way back in the day when you were growing up in Ypsilanti. It's like, wow, check it out.
I like Los Angeles. I can see why people might get tired of it. Of course, my son and his wife aren't building wealth like they would be if they had the same incomes in Rich Jenny. If they had the same incomes in Michigan, but they wouldn't have the same jobs if they're in Michigan,
Well, are they both in the entertainment industry or no?
No, my son is a waiter at Dave & Buster's in Hollywood, and he was a busboy here in Livonia at Dave & Buster's, and he got transferred out there, and they transferred him to the same position. He was a busboy when he got out there.
Huh.
But they have, restaurant workers there actually can make a living doing it, which he's doing.
Yeah, they still have rights.
Yeah,
as
yeah,
I've
and
mentioned,
he's
yeah, as I've mentioned, when I was a kid at Ponderosa, I was getting full Blue Cross Blue Shield and a dental plan.
sure.
Nowadays I would have to go to jail to get all that. Well, if not, no,
And that's
not
why,
jail.
and trust me, there's a lot of people that do that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The guy who threw the
There's a
cigarette
lot. There's a lot of people that they let out of jail and prison that try to go straight, and they say, "Well,
Yep.
shit, I was better off in prison. Why don't I just
3 hots in a cot, and
yeah? Why don't I just commit armed robbery and get back there where I can sleep and eat?"
the whole man sex thing. Well, once you get used to, I mean, the
once
first
you get used,
couple of,
once you get used to that, I mean,
yeah, the first
just
couple times
you
are a
know what
little
you do,
rough,
you change your diet for the lubricant. So.
I'm not going to go into why that you're a married man. I'm just going to let it go. But I mean, speaking as the resident raging queer, Raging Queer was the name of the boat that I used to work on as a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't meet a lot of definitions of raging. So.
No, I don't. I run into that all the time. You don't act. What? How am I supposed to act? Am I supposed to come in, throw glitter around, and redecorate? You don't want me redecorating.
My brother, I don't know if I've told this story live before, and I don't even know if I've told you or not, but my brother Paul, he's since deceased, he was gay, and he was living with it when we lived out there in Los Angeles. He had a roommate, Bruce, and Bruce would come. My brother Paul had basically got a job wherever he could, and just didn't stick with anything. Was kind of looking for something. The closest thing he had to a career was he made glasses for an optometrist. The optometrist had to do all the medical stuff. He would.
Yeah, but he ground the lenses.
Exactly. Yeah. So anyway, that was the closest he came to. And he worked for florist shops, and he did deliveries for movie set. He did prop deliveries for movie sets and studios and things like that. But never really had anything that was much of a career. But he had this guy that he lived with, Bruce, who was a dedicated worker and put his time in and didn't leave jobs when people would piss him off. And Paul hated it because Bruce would come home and go, "Oh, I swear to God, he's got me on my last number. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to something's got to be done." And I was there one time, and Paul looks over at me, and I look at him, and I kind of rolled my eyes, and he turns back to Bruce, and he goes, "Oh, don't be a fag." And Bruce is just taken by this. He goes, "Oh, well, we are gay." He says, "We're gay. We're not fags."
Actually, he points out that that sort
he
of
said
difference.
he says if I wanted someone that act like a woman, I'd be with a woman.
Well, I never came out to my parents, but I think they suspected when I brutally criticized my mom's sense of interior decoration and suggested the house looked like a gay bar in Ishpeming. She slapped me, of course, but she did get rid of that awful tablecloth that was that again looked like wallpaper.
So that's a sacrifice. That's a sacrifice you had to make.
Exactly. Well, as I've mentioned before, growing up next to a cemetery, and my mother being a vicious, brutal cemetery or funeral critic, was also something to grow up with. Just the whole sort of, yeah. Well, I bet they're glad she's dead. I can see by the money they spent, they want to make sure she stays in that box. I just hope the hell she doesn't, get into the groundwater. The lady was tough. She was a tough woman. What can I tell you? That's the way I was sometimes.
I was always, any material I did that I thought bordered offending gays, I would run them by my brother. And he would go, "All right." He go, "That's good. No, don't use that one. Don't use that one." So one night he says, "I'm doing an open mic. Come see me." So I go over to the Improv to watch him do an open mic, and he's doing all my jokes. I said, "You said I couldn't do those." I said, You said I couldn't do this. I said you couldn't do this.
Well, I will argue that, I mean, that gays are a lot more thick-skinned than people give them credit for.
Yeah,
but I
that's
think it's
true.
also a generational thing too. I think when you and I both look, just because you weren't gay doesn't mean this didn't affect you. We both remember AIDS. We both remember
Oh
how
shit,
bad
yeah.
it got.
Yep.
You know, and it affected a lot of people, mainly gays, but not just gay people. Remember having to tell your parents you're Haitian? Remember that old joke? Yeah, you know.
I like that one.
Yeah,
or
you know. Now I'm in trouble with the people from Haiti. Yeah, but they're gonna put a spell on me. Um, but you learned a certain amount of being thick-skinned about it. You know, I know people got really upset. Well, Elton John got really mad at Sam Kinison, and I'm like, you know, Sam, he's saying some rough stuff, but he's not letting anybody get off the hook. The stuff he said about women, the stuff he said about himself, all these people, you know, were taking aim. I've seen some other. Well, I've seen Don Rickles do far more homophobic material, but I laugh my ass off because it's Don. That's what Don Rickles does.
Right.
You know, I mean, just you know, and also you knew that Don Rickles didn't mean any of it. You know, it wasn't like he was out there slapping around, you know, the Liberace impersonator that's out there helping, you know, to get his pleats properly pressed.
Well, the thing that Don was good at too was he could read the audience.
Well, you know, you're absolutely
and
right.
He could go so many different directions. So if there was something, he wouldn't try to plow through with something if he saw that there was a segment of the audience that wasn't going for it. He would find something that they were laughing. And you know, you ever notice that he'd direct it?
Yes.
So let's say you're saying something that's offending white men.
Right.
He would find a target, or whatever, black men, black women, whatever it was. He would find somebody in the audience that fit that description and then drag them into it and have them laughing at the things he was saying about them as individuals. Not so he took the jokes from being about a race or a class or a identity and then direct it to one person, and that one person would be laughing, and that pretty much now he could do all the material that way.
You know, and nowadays people get so offended so quickly, and it's just like, come on, let's have some fun here. I mean, I'm more than willing to take a few shots aimed at me, and there have been times that I've not been too particularly thrilled with what other people were saying, but I'm like, you know, when it's your turn, you go up there and you know, you pitch the ball fast, the fastball as all you can. I don't know if I should use a baseball analogy there. But you know what I mean. You go up there, you do your stuff. You do what you.
Yeah, the one I've been getting heat on lately is I will not usually say anything about the comics act unless they get absolutely no laughs at all.
Well, it happens.
I know, and then I like to point out, as if everybody already didn't know, that how brave that comic was for getting up there.
Yeah.
And actually getting no laughs at all.
Oh God, it's happened to me. I've gone up there and just ate.
And I've said something about it after you've been up there. So
yeah, it just, you know, I mean, I remember after the Ridley show, I was trying to do some new material, and I just absolutely just ate crap. But how else are you going to get new material? I don't know. I mean, isn't that how you get it?
Well, I tell you, here's the thing that's different. We talk about everybody starting off at open mic, and do you know who Orny Adams is?
Not offhand.
Orny Adams is a professional comic. He's been at the Comedy Castle. He used to come once a year. He comes like every 3 years now because he's gotten some acting work, and you know, once you get those acting checks coming in, and the union's paying for your medical care, you know, stand up isn't as attractive as it once was.
Yeah. No, it's not. And the thing is not, well, for instance, one of the reasons why I was asking if your kids were in the entertainment industry is because just looking at the dollars of it, did you know that the gaming industry, which is to say video games, computer games, whatever you want to call it,
right?
The value, the market cap of that is now greater than, if you combine the music industry with the movie industry, it is still greater than the sum of those two industries by a long shot.
Well, get this. The talk show that after the evening 11 o'clock news, the talk show was once Johnny Carson's domain.
Absolutely.
Right now, the top draw is Stephen Colbert,
Yep.
and he gets 3 million viewers a night.
Yeah.
Carson never had fewer than 17 million, ever.
Yes.
Worst night,
Yes.
worst. If Nightline had, if we were having hostages taken in Iran and Nightline was running shit for 444 days straight, Carson was still getting at least 17 million viewers. You know what I mean?
ABC was just happy to get something, to get a little backscatter, because you're right.
A little taste, get a little taste.
Yeah. And then.
But can you imagine? I mean, 3 million is seen as a success, and he'll run forever with 3 million viewers. But Carson had 6 times that much and more often.
Well, this one time,
if he had a big name on his show, like Elizabeth Taylor was coming on or something like that, there'd be 45 million people staying up a little bit after the news.
Yeah, at night, at 11:30, 12 o'clock at night, when nobody wanted to, or when nobody thought anyone was watching.
Right.
Right. Well, I don't know. I guess Jack Parr started it. Was it Steve Allen or Jack Parr who started the Tonight Show? I can't remember.
Steve Allen, and then turned it over to Jack Parr.
Okay.
And when Steve Allen did it for 2 hours. Yeah. Jack Parr cut it back to an hour 45. Carson cut it back to 90 minutes.
Yeah.
And then after he moved to California, cut it back to an hour. So that hour format has only been really since other people try to do nighttime talk shows.
Yep. And well, I just, again, and the thought that back then, if you went against Johnny Carson, you were committing career suicide. And it proved to be true in many, many cases. The one guy in Hollywood you didn't want to piss off was Johnny Carson.
Right.
And you definitely needed to get on his show. And I don't know. I mean, but remember the times Robert Blake would show up drunk and just sort of stumble onto the stage, nothing to promote, and proceed to just commit career suicide, but yet we loved it. And for some reason or another, and Blake is fine as long as you don't go out to dinner with him, because now
there were people on all the talk shows that you wondered, well, they're not really stars. Why are they? And then you realize they were great talk shows. It's Charles Nelson Riley, Tony Randall, George Gobel. All those guys were great. Oh, Albert Brooks was a bit of a star, but still, he was more of a star after Carson was gone. You know what I mean? When he started doing movies.
Remember Charles?
Oh, Charles. There's one right there. Charles. Exactly.
And and the funny thing is, Charles is, I've seen some stuff of her performing. I mean, with a musical instrument. And she is an extraordinary guitarist.
She was married to a band leader.
She was married to Xavier Cugat. Yeah. Coogie. But Coogie. I mean, that's not what I called him. I think that's what she called him. Right?
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, I mean, you're right. Charles would come on there and just and exactly. I mean, and I recently rewatched that one edit, or that one segment you said to look at, of Joan Rivers and Betty White just torching each other.
Isn't that great?
Oh my God!
Oh, are you the one that put the Jonathan Winters and Johnny Carson?
I am. Yeah.
Do you see Andy Jensen?
Yes, I do.
In Jonathan Winters. Oh, yes, man.
Yeah.
It's the only. I think the only difference is, Andy's not as confident in his improvisations the way Jonathan will just go into stuff that unscripted. And Jonathan did about 4 or 5 characters, but no impressions.
Really well.
And you knew who they were. You knew they were him, and they knew they were his character. Nobody ripped him off. Nobody tried to do Aunt Blabby.
Although Carson ripped off Maude Frickert.
That's true. That is true. You're right. He ripped off a lot.
And he ripped off a lot. The Karnak thing, wasn't that originally a Steve Allen bit that he sort of made his own?
Yeah, there was another one he ripped off, and I'm trying to think of what it was.
Well, the old Tea Time movie theater was somebody else's originally. Where you had to back up and cut off your Slauson. But I had no idea what a Slauson was or why you
there's a road in LA, and it's called the Slauson Cutoff. Where it's sort of like if you were in the neighborhood and you knew how to get there, you could use it.
Right.
Out of towners could never figure it out, so it was always sort of like an LA secret, the Slauson Cutoff.
The old
so he was talking about cutting off your Slauson. So
the Art Fern tea time, but of course we didn't have Art Fern. We had Bill Kennedy, and for all you non-Detroiters, you don't know what you missed. Bill stammering, sputtering, showing clips of his movie career. Both of them sometimes.
You know what that would make a great mini cabaret. What do they call those things? Operetta. That would make a great operetta down at the Gem Theater in Detroit.
Oh God, yes.
Kennedy. No, because the Gem Theater has done the Vagina Diaries, and they've done Menopause the Musical, and Forgotten Broadway, Forgotten Hollywood. All these parodies on the form that they were making fun of. And I think a little operetta or musical about Bill Kennedy, or even all of them, put Bill Kennedy, Rita Bell,
Lawson Demarest as Sir
Carol Duvall, George Perot.
Yeah,
just create a little musical. In fact, it would be weird because you'd have to hire actors who would have no idea who these people are, because it's been
at this
so
point.
long.
I mean, I still, the one time I made you laugh, it was comedy for one. It's one of my pinnacles of my comedic career was when I referred to some guy in front as the George Perot stunt double.
Yes.
And no one else got it. You got it, and it's like, yes, I think someone needs to plug in the George Perot stunt double.
Yeah. It's so funny. It's only the older comics like Ned Rice and Wesley Partridge and Sarah Markey and some of these people that make these older references. That I'll do a ha, and Wes is always going, "Oh, I got the Mark Sweetman ha of approval."
Oh dear!
But half of that laugh is it cracks me up that they would dare make that reference.
Yeah. Well, again, now
I'm getting a message. Hold on, I'm getting a message from Sam here.
Oh boy. We have Sam on the hotline. He's calling in.
No, it looks like. Oh, I think he wants the. All right, I'm going to give him the address.
Okay. Oh, fantastic! I'm gonna put this up in his honor, because really, there's only one other person who would know Adam Clayton Powell at this point in time.
True.
God.
There.
Remember when Mad Magazine would actually be able to do satires of various political figures?
Yes.
You could kind of go along with the joke. Teenagers understood politics at a level where they were savvy.
I was looking for, I think I was in the 6th grade when they did their Oddfather.
Yes.
Satire of The Godfather.
Yes.
And my son and I watched The Godfather now 50 years after, Godfather 2, 50 years after it was released. And I said, I got to find this because I know I got it around here somewhere. I have so many things that turned out to be, I thought that they would be collector's items. Turns out that they were. And that Mad Magazine with the Oddfather was one of them.
And of course, the Mad Magazine fold-in, which was, of course,
Al Jaffe's art.
Yes.
Al Jaffe. The same guy that gave us snappy answers to stupid questions.
Stupid questions.
That was just the title of that piece was funny. Snappy answers to stupid questions.
And the whole spy versus spy, which was, sort of one of those running themes through the whole magazine. Or sometimes you'd see stuff in the margins that they would sort of build in, and it was wonderful sort of satire that actually took its audience fairly seriously for such an irreverent publication. I don't know, crazy time to be sure, but something I was absolutely glad that we have. And now here's where I get to sound like ossified old man with, you kids today have no idea what it was like growing up, depending on the kindness of others.
Well, here's my thing. Here's my thing about kids. They all have parents and grandparents, and I'm hoping that'll keep me alive.
That's why they keep getting the Amber Alert. Okay, all right. Yeah, I got to remember that.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I was going to play Santa myself, but then the box on my ankle kept shocking me, and it's like, no, okay, never mind. We won't.
Charles still alive at 73.
And can still perform. But it wasn't that long ago I ran into Dolly Parton doing a version of Stairway to Heaven that is amazing.
She did. Well, you heard what happened with Dolly Parton with all those rocks, that she did a whole album of rock songs because she got nominated and elected to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
She deserves
and
to
so at first she says, well, I don't do rock and roll, so I'm not going to accept it. And then everybody got on and says, well, there's a lot of non-rock acts in the Hall of Fame. So she goes, all right, I'll accept the award, but I got to make a rock album. So she made that. That's how she made the rock album.
She took Stairway to Heaven and she didn't just do a voice over the Led Zeppelin. She totally rearranged the song so that it sounds like a hillbilly folk tune, which it is, and made it very dark and mysterious. And of course, her voice is amazing. She's a wonderfully talented musician. She can write. She knows music. She can perform. She's not, you don't just put her in front of a microphone and hope to God that the engineers can fix it. She actually knows what she's doing.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. This must have been a double album. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21 songs on her rock and roll album. That had to be a double album.
Gotta love it.
And listen to these. She did 10 on her own, but then she did 11 collaborations.
Yeah.
She did Every Breath You Take with Sting, the originator of that song.
Okay.
Open Arms with Steve Perry. Magic Man with Ann Wilson.
I love
from her band.
Heart.
Can't remember the name of her band. Heart, right? Long as I Can See the Light with John Fogerty.
Yeah.
I Hate Myself for Loving You with Joan Jett and the Blackhearts. She did Night Moves, not with Bob Seger, but with Chris Stapleton.
Okay.
Wrecking Ball with Miley Cyrus.
All right.
Don't Let the Sun Go Down on Me with Elton John.
All right.
Let It Be with Paul McCartney and Ringo Starr.
Nice.
And Freebird with Leonard Skinner.
I love it.
On her own, she did Purple Rain, We Are the Champions by Queen, We Will Rock You by Queen, I Can't Get No Satisfaction by the Stones, and Stairway to Heaven by
Led Zeppelin,
and Freebird by Leonard Skinner. She did both. One with Leonard Skinner and one on her own.
Nice.
Wow.
Yeah. No, I mean she's a great musician. If you ever, I don't know if you listen to Lucinda Williams, another songstress who deserves her own wing in the Hall of Fame. She's from out of, I believe Louisiana, right there, right on the border with Texas. Her father was a poet laureate. She's
Lucinda Williams.
Yeah, Lucinda Williams. She's one of the greatest American singers, performers. But she does a version of AC/DC. It's a long way. It's a long way to rock and roll. What's the oh god? It's a long way to the top if you want to rock and roll. Yeah, I mean, and here she's kind of a country folk girl, and yet she comes out and does that song and just and absolutely blows your hair back. But some of these folks are just good at what they do, and whatever they do turns out to be pretty good. So is Sam going to try and bust in, or is he?
Well, I gave him the link on the text message. Okay. He sent me a link, and usually that means he can't get through on the link, so I sent him the correct one. So he's He should just, I got to get him to just erase any links, because I never reuse a link. I create a new link for each show.
Well, I really am hoping that he gets to be feeling better, because I think, and again, I know you've heard me bloviate on this, but I really do think, again, especially with the coming Trump administration, you and him would have a field day doing a live show, because you'll always have material. You will not lack for material between the two of you, and you have a great rapport. And it's and once we kind of got that into a live stream and monetized it, which really wouldn't be all that hard. I mean, Sam's getting quite a few TikTok follows. And,
I know.
And, tapping into that. Like I say, I mean, right now, Trump may be in the ascendance, and think of that what you will. There's still 48% of the people who are not quite so thrilled with his position in place, and who are more than willing to listen to others discuss his shortcomings. And people used to say Limbaugh when Clinton became president, well, you won't have a show anymore. He's good. No, I'll be bigger than ever, and he was.
I never think of 51% as a mandate anyway. So.
Well, it really isn't. I mean, it's a majority, but is it a mandate? I don't know. I mean, for me, a mandate is the sort of thing that comes with a Speedo and a bottle of wine, but that's a different definition of mandate.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, you're dealing with something that we haven't had in 100 years, which is to say a second term of a non-consecutive nature. It's only happened once before. He's automatically a lame duck president. Right.
Grover Cleveland. Isn't Grover Cleveland also the one who gave
Grover
us the
Cleveland is the only other one.
Yeah, and he's also the one who gave us the 7th inning stretch.
Well, you see, there you go. So there was that. And yeah. So
Trump will give us the president with 5 children with 3 wives. So he broke the what's love got to do with it barrier.
Well, here's one I bet you don't get. I'm gonna put him up here. We'll see what you do. You can't see the hat, but that's a Detroit Tiger. That's a very famous. Yeah.
Yes, it is. That's John Walkenfuss, right?
Close. John Hiller.
John Hiller. Okay.
Yeah, so close.
John Hiller.
One of the greatest relievers of all time.
The great left-handed Ontarian.
Yes. Who retired to the UP of Michigan. And who says that he still goes to Florida in the wintertime, because while it is God's country in the UP, even God leaves during the winter. But even though his career as a starter was over, he had that heart attack. I think in 67 or 68.
He came back. He came back from that heart attack.
Yes.
He came back and won the fireman of there was an insurance company that had the fireman's hat. I can't remember the name of it now.
Yes, I know what you're talking. Well,
they sponsored the reliever award back in the day. I don't know what
that was a time when every pitcher expected to pitch the whole game. The reliever came in. They stomped off the pitch. They were storming.
Well, John Hiller was also a guy that if they needed a guy in a pinch, he could start a game too. Remember?
Yeah, exactly, because he was a former starting. And now here's another guy.
Yeah. The big unit. Well, the big unit. Yeah, Randy Johnson. Randy Johnson. The pigeon exploder.
Yes, he's the one that blew up the bird. I mean, that wasn't even fair. That bird. I mean, it's like, wow.
Yeah, balls coming in at 102 miles an hour.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be a hard day for the pigeon. It's not going to work out in their benefit, I'm afraid. So
that face looks like about a half a second after that pigeon got hit.
I'm not sure if that's his O face, but that's as close as we're going to get to it. But remember, we had David Wells in New York in Detroit for what, 2 seasons? When we had absolutely nobody. In fact, I think they traded him just to get some players because he ended up in New York.
Well, let's hold on. We're going to find out. Here we go. And it's What players did the Tigers get when they traded pitcher David Wells? We got, here it comes. I love Google. All right, we didn't trade him to the Yankees.
What did we do?
He must have got traded later to the Yankees. We traded him to Cincinnati for pitcher C.J. Nitkowski. Mark Lewis, don't know his position, and minor leaguer Dave Tuttle. C.J. Nitkowski was the only.
We traded David Wells for C.J. Nitkowski. Oh, dear Jesus God.
All right, hold on. Let me see if it was Cincinnati that sent him to New York or somebody else. Here we go. Boom, 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 boom. Here we go. No, the Reds traded him to the Baltimore Orioles, who traded him to the Yankees.
Wow.
He had 2 stints with the Yankees. Oh, get this. He pitched till 2000. He pitched for 41 years. No, 21. He pitched for 21 years. He pitched from 87 to 2007.
Wow. That's impressive.
His first 6 years were with the Blue Jays. Then he pitched 3 for the Tigers, 1 for the Reds, 1 for the Orioles, 2 for the Yankees, 2 more for the Blue Jays, 1 for the White Sox, 2 more for the Yankees, 1 for the Padres, 2 for the Red Sox, 2 more for the Padres, and then 1 year for the Dodgers.
Well, there was a time when he was the big unit in baseball for a couple of seasons. I mean, the man was tough.
In his last season with Detroit, he made the All-Star team. I think he might have even started that year, I think. Gosh. And he also pitched the All-Star for the Yankees and the Blue Jays. He was an All-Star for the Tigers.
Do you remember? I believe we'd had the '84 the last time we won the World Series, but I think it was the '87 season when we were also really hot. But that was also when Monahan was interfering with the team. And we ended up 87 or 86. I don't know if you can remember.
87, we won the Eastern Division and lost to Kansas City.
Right.
And they ended up beating the Cardinals in the World Series.
And that's when and after that we lost Jack Morris. And I think Lance retired.
We didn't lose Jack Morris immediately. We lost Kirk Gibson first, then Lance Barrett, then Jack Morris.
Yep.
And basically, it was when their contracts ended. They just didn't sign back with the Tigers. They
they were tired of being screwed over.
Pretty much.
Monahan with his absolutely insufferable comments about Kirk Gibson, saying what a disgrace he was, running the bases with all that hair. It's like, the dude just won you a World Series. You do realize he tripled the value of investment.
Basically, he bought a team when they were worth about $100 million, and
got it for $36 million. When he bought it, he paid $36 million to Fetzer, and yes, it was worth $100 million at the end of the next season.
Right.
But being the ungrateful, drunken.
All right. So what? So here's what you're going to do. You're not going to sign Gibson, so let him sign with the Dodgers, where he wins a World Series the very next year. So
exactly when he goes out to Dodger land.
Pretty much, it's bite me, Monahan, is what we're saying.
Oh my God, you have no idea how much I despise that man.
Oh, I was out in LA. I was out in LA for the Dodgers series win this year, and I wanted to go down to the parade, but I couldn't wake my son up, and I wasn't going down there with my old self. I needed a young heavy to go down with me.
You needed a bodyguard, Mark. Just say it.
I needed a bodyguard, basically.
You needed a bodyguard. That's what you needed. We get it. We understand. We know how it can be down there. Well, I'm hopeful that maybe the Tigers seem to be on the upswing. I've kind of lost touch with baseball over the last couple of years. I was not happy with the strike shortened season, but that's almost 30 years ago, so maybe I should get over it at a certain point.
I'm beginning to think that they're committed to AJ Hinch for their manager, more than they are to winning it this year. I think they want to. I think they want to stay the course for developing their young talent.
Yep.
And you know what? There's some precedent in that, because when Illich did that, Illich never won the World Series, but he went to 2 World Series, right?
Yep.
But when he did that, he would make the buys once the core was there.
Yep.
And I think young Illich is still waiting for that, despite what people think. People just think he's a tightwad, but I think, there's a lot of things. What's that?
I think young Illich is, but I mean, in this day and age, I think you have to be. I mean,
well, I think if you think about it, to me, they remind me of a lot of the way the Lions are doing it. The Lions basically said, we're going to be 3-13 our first year under this new regime. And we're going to accept that. And we're not, everybody say, and then they went 0-6. So they were 3-19 before Ford, Sheila Ford came out and had that press conference, said the GM's safe, the coach is safe. They're doing exactly as I'm directing them. And so, and after that they started winning. So I think that's where the Tigers are. They're probably, if they're even close to it, by All-Star break.
Well, the one thing that we have to say in praise of Sheila Ford is that she knows how to hire the right people and get out of the way and let them do their jobs.
Yes. And that is so hard. That is so hard for a sports team owner to do, because they've created successes in their other businesses.
Right.
And they think, but the thing is, they were experts in those businesses. They were, know what I mean? They knew how to make those businesses a success. And so what about that makes them think that they know everything about football?
Well, that's it. They think they do know something about football. And we're looking at you, Jerry Jones, and America.
Jerry Jones has got a 3-win team right now, or 5-win, whatever it is. And I'm thinking, and he's made himself the general. Don't hire a general manager. Don't hire a guy that's of Brad Holmes caliber.
Yeah. Try not to be Marge Schott. Where you
bring your dog to the ballpark.
Yeah, to crap on the
Wasn't
floor.
she the one that smoked cigars in the owner's suite? Wasn't that her?
And used rather earthy, shall we say, language.
To
disparage her, calling them her hired. Well, I'm just going to say her hiredlings. You can choose to fill in the blank there, but she had some pretty ugly things to say, and well, but the good news is that Mark Schott died, and eventually they got some competent management down there in Cincinnati, and but I put this one up earlier in the chat over the weekend. I said this: when I pass into the afterlife, this is what my case manager will look at when I explain my search history and YouTube subscriptions.
Is that John Wood?
That's John Wood from, or not John Wood. Oh, please, it's from Goodfellas or from Casino.
Steve Buscemi?
No, not Buscemi. Oh my God, how could I? Woods is his last name. No one had
James Woods.
James Wood. Yeah.
I gotta watch. There's a film I gotta watch. In fact, my son's here. We gotta put Casino on our list of films to see.
Oh, Casino is absolutely the movie. It is the trashiest, splashiest, complete Martin Scorsese film. I love it. I can't get talk about a film I cannot watch 5 minutes of. I have to watch the whole thing. I mean,
Oh yeah, what we're having a hard time doing is finishing Godfather 3.
Scarface.
Everyone has a hard time with Godfather 3.
That is so horrible.
You know who else had a problem with that? Coppola. He had a hard time with Godfather. Couldn't finish Godfather 3.
I think we got halfway through it.
But it's 16 years apart from each other in actual time. And how many years did we determine it was between Godfather 2 and Godfather 3 in
it had to be about 10. You think 10? I mean, it was
something like that. But I mean, it was just like just watching Sofia. Here's what I can say about Sofia Coppola: much better filmmaker than actress.
If instead of Sofia Coppola, what you could have done, that would have been better. Would have been to have a cardboard cutout of Demi Moore with someone just moving the mouth behind it and while the lines were being spoken by someone, that would have been a better representation. That would have been better acting than what we got in that horrifying. There's a good movie in there somewhere. There could have been a great movie.
And Connie is part of the family. I mean, part of the family business. It just doesn't make sense.
No.
Character.
Anyway, you know that we just wasted an hour today. We did it without. We're able to do it.
Although I'm sure he's busy in his bedroom right now, calling us all kinds of bad names.
Oh, he's in the hospital. So,
yeah.
Well, Sam, we're pulling for you. We'll see you here next week. Everybody else, Monday night, 8 o'clock, every Monday. We'll see you then. Good night, everybody.
Good night.